If you received the IRS CP14, that is the very first letter that the IRS sends out when you have a balance due. My name is Sergio Melendez. I am an IRS tax expert. Today, I will be discussing the details of the IRS CP14. Why did you get a CP14? The IRS sends its notice out when you have a balance due for a particular tax year. So when you file your tax return, you know you have a balance. This is the very first notice that the IRS sends. Typically, it takes them 30 days. With COVID-19 delays, it might take a little longer. It might take them anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. Just look out in the mail because you know this is coming. This is if you have not paid the balance due on a particular tax year. So when you get the notice, it has a couple things. It's particular to a tax year, and it has a couple adjustments. If you didn't file on time or you didn't pay on time, you're going to get hit with those type of penalties. The failure to file penalty and the failure to pay penalty. On top of that, you're going to get the adjustments, and it's going to add some interest onto your account. So you want to make sure that it's kind of accurate, or if you kind of compare that to the tax return, the numbers will match up. It's going to have the original tax amount, any other type of withholding or tax payments made, and then the balance with the interest and penalties associated on there. What happens if you don't take any action? That right there is, I don't recommend you just sit around and not take any action. Here at Semper Tax Relief, we employ the strike first method, which means that you take action before the IRS takes action. Because if the IRS takes action, then they're the ones that could get a little bit more aggressive with their collection tactics. So I have several great ways of how you could resolve this debt. Even though if we review your case more in depth, you might have a better solution as far as what type of solution you may qualify for. So I'm just going to include the top 7 ways of how you can resolve the issues with the CP14. I'm going to go ahead and get started. One of the first things you should do is review the original tax return. If you have 100% that it's accurate, there's no changes to be made, there's no mistakes made, then the CP14 might be accurate. But if you realize that, number one is if you did it yourself, maybe you want to get the opinion of an enrolled agent, a CPA to review it, or a tax preparer, maybe there might be some accuracy related issues or maybe some deductions you missed, then I would recommend to do that. Others is if you went to a it's not seasoned tax preparer, they might have been a little confused as far as what to do for the steps moving forward. So if you find some kind of errors or some kind of adjustment to be made on the tax return, then that's the number one thing you could do. Review it for accuracy. You could do an amended tax return that could potentially reduce the amount that you could owe. That's fabulous, because then if you submit the change, it could lower the balance, lower the interest, lower the penalties, or maybe even wipe out the debt. Number 1 is not available, maybe option number 2 might be. So option number 2 might be, if you have the capabilities, if this is accurate, you could pay the balance in full to the IRS. If you pay the IRS in full, then you could qualify for penalty abatement, which means that they forgive the penalties. But I will discuss that down the road. So option number 2 is pay the taxes, pay the amount in full, and down the line you could request for a penalty forgiveness. You could request the IRS to give you some temporary time to pay the balance. That is, if you know you're going to pay the balance in about 4 months, up to 160 days, that's when you should contact the IRS and let them know, you know what, I just need some time to pay. I just need about 4 months, and the IRS will grant you the time. What's different between that and requesting an installment plan? When you request installment plans, they charge you a user fee. So by you contacting the IRS, requesting some time, they could grant you that time without them granting you the installment agreement, without them charging you that fee. And this also, if you request a time and you do pay it off within that time, you can also request the penalty abatement or the penalty forgiveness. I will get into a little bit of detail on the penalty forgiveness. You can also request a payment plan. The IRS has different types of payment plans. Sometimes they take a payment plan where it's only it's an amount that you are able to afford and not quite pay off the tax in full. Now that does have to get negotiated with the IRS and fully arranged. Others are known as a fresh start installment agreement, where the overall balance has to be under $50,000. That could get combined also with penalty abatement or the penalty forgiveness. I'm going to discuss penalty forgiveness in a little bit. This leads us to the 5th thing you could do, and this is combined with one of the other solutions like paying in full or the payment plan. And this solution number 5 is the penalty forgiveness. Now, I'm going to have a whole series of 3-part on the specifics on how you do it, how you specifically request a penalty forgiveness. But the IRS will typically forgive the failure to file and the failure to pay penalty, along with maybe the accuracy related penalty, as long as you have some kind of arrangement to pay back the balances. So it works really great. So that way you can save yourself on a penalty, fix your problem, and then you can move forward. The sixth way you could resolve the balance with the IRS is one of the programs called the Offer and Compromise program. Through the Offer and Compromise program, you literally are going to settle your tax debt. You're going to offer the IRS a certain amount and the IRS will forgive it. The way it works is this. Let's say you owe $250,000 to the IRS, but because of income and equity and assets, you are only able to afford to give them a payment of $1,000. So if you pay $1,000, the IRS will take your $1,000 and they will forgive all of your taxes, all of the penalties and everything else, and you're going to start from zero, having a zero balance. Now, the one thing, it is called a compromise. So you're going to be on a probationary period for about 5 years to file on time and make sure you have no new taxes. Now, this process is not that easy. This process for Offer and Compromise typically takes anywhere between 6 months to 9 months to resolve. Sometimes a little later, sometimes a little sooner, but all depends on the workload of the IRS. And last, number 7 is a financial-based product where it's currently non-collectible status. The currently non-collectible status, if you picture this, if you could only afford to pay $0 per month to the IRS, you make the request, and if the IRS approves it, you are granted non-collectible status. The IRS also calls this status 53. So this is temporary in nature. By temporary in nature means that they might review your financials in about 2 to 3 years, and you might have to do this process all over again. The difference between non-collectible status and Offer and Compromise is the fact that Offer and Compromise completely wipes out your debt, and the non-collectible status, you still have the balance due. However, the IRS is not trying to collect after you. Difference why you may qualify for non-collectible versus Offer and Compromise is that you might have some kind of asset that isn't quite so liquid, but you might have some equity in it. So therefore, you cannot qualify for Offer and Compromise. But however, the IRS would accept the non-collectible status. So when owing money to the IRS, the CP14 is the very first notice that the IRS sends you, and you don't want to wait for the IRS to take action. It's important that you take action yourself. You strike first. That's the method that we employ. So see which option you qualify for. If you have the capability to pay the balance in full, then do so. But if you qualify for one of the financial hardship payment plans or the financial hardship plans, then apply for that and just get aggressive that in nature. Which plan do you want to qualify for? Drop me a comment, let me know. Remember, hit like on this video and don't forget to subscribe. We got more tax relief coming your way.